Lisa? Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you. Thank you. Bienvenidos todos, familia. Welcome, everyone, family. On behalf of the Colectivo Agua, we would like to thank you for joining us today for this fourth edition of the Conversations about Water this month. And today we have the honor and pleasure to listen to some wisdom words from TAWA ROY LITTLESUN, who has been sharing a message, a secret that is being revealed after 33,000 years. And it has to do with our blood and our evolution. And that's why we are here today. So thank you, TAWA, for taking this time to be here. So TAWA, in our conversations about water, we talk a lot about this moment in time that we are in, about human evolution, and how water seems to be calling us and calling our attention and wanting to participate in this evolution. In your perspective, in the cosmovision that you share, and the message that you have been revealing for the last 50 plus years, what would you say is a relationship between the waters within us and our evolution?
Well, thank you for this invitation. Because of this invitation of the mothers of Mexico, especially Agua. At this moment, a new symbol came into being because of the invitation. And the symbol is this. Horizontal and the vertical. This represents the one heart force. And especially it correlates with the force rising from the horizontal level. And this horizontal, we have to understand what is horizontal. Horizontal is a part of the circle. So, all around the circle is connected to the horizontal. So actually there is no really straight line. It's always slightly curved. And we call this horizontal. It's the horizontal. And a total circle, that means all the horizontals together, the total circle. That is the design or the illustration of the womb. So that is the essence of the mother, the woman. Why the circle? The circle cannot exist unless there's a center. So what is a center? The center is the constriction of the circle. And the circle is the expansion of the center, of the one. So there's a third factor. So now I have the circle and the center. And the third factor is the connection. The connection between the circle and the center. So that constitutes the design of the human. Basically, there are two ways to come to the center. We call this the double polarity. We can come to the center horizontally and vertically. You can see this in nature. It's like this. To come to the center of the totality, let's say this is the universe, or the earth, or our body. It's massive. And now we can learn to come to the center, or relate to the center. And it begins with the seed. That seed is the essence of the portal, the portal. So what happens here is a tiny seed was dropped on the rock, massive. And that seed to penetrate the rock, see, taken from here, need to have a relationship or a connection with the earth. We call this heaven. The bigger is the circle. But in a circle, we have this planet Earth that is center. So that seed in the beginning connects with the center of the earth. Not physically, spiritually. So the seed is like the portal of spirit. Seed falls, and spiritually, that seed connects with the center of the earth. That's the power. So spirit, what is spirit? Most people don't know what is spirit. Spirit is a channel. And what flows through the channel is the power. You may say the will of God. And that power, for me, I say, that is the divine super glue. So the totality, the great mystery, you may say, the nothing is kept together by that power. But also, you can use that power. And so if we want to reveal the power, I repeat, we want to reveal the power, they call this planting. That's what planting means. We plant the seed. So now, what's in the seed, the power is revealed. So you see the root coming out. That's the first revelation. So the first revelation is from the portal. It connects with the center of the earth. And once that connection is made, spiritually, and now you can reverse the direction. And now the power is revealed. So first is we connect with the center, and from the center, we can reveal the power. And now the branch system manifest. So now we can notice, we can become aware, see, what's in the seed. The demystification, the revelation. And by that connection between earth and heaven, that means, as I say, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's the will of God, the power. So now the will of God, right, reveals what's in this rock, but also what's in the seed. So when we know how to plant, we can reveal. So the human, the purpose of the human is to reveal. So the revelation has two stages. The first revelation is by contraction, from the outside, from the horizontal, or to the center. They call this eating. Right? So the revelation by the root system that we have internalized biologically, that is the digestive system. So what are we planting in us? We must know, we must have a seed. What is that seed? We want to plant the divine seed of the universe, so that we can reveal. That's the first part. And that divine seed to materialize the human. It is a composition of complex body cells, organs, and so on. That seed, in order to be able to become a revelation, a refiner, and also to discover, to have this experience. All of this is all condensed in us. That's our potential, being human. That seed is the whole cereal grain. I'm talking about not refined like white rice and white bread, rice, whole wheat, barley, millet, corn, and also a few plants that have that seed power, like quinoa, amaranth. So that is our main food in order to not only to create the human, but also to maintain the human as a refinery. So we plant the seed here, but we have to know how to chew. Most people don't chew. It's small. Chewing means bringing heaven and earth together. And the tongue, that correlates with the heart. So by chewing, we bring heaven and earth, internalize it in the heart. That's the center. And that becomes a portal through which the spirit can flow. That goes through the channel that the spirit is the channel, flows the power. So Master Jesus is stated. And the spirit creates the body. That's a miracle. And the body creates a spirit. That's the greatest miracle. So the channel flows to us as food. Food is a channel. And we become the transition of the channel. So we are a refinery of spirit. And from here, the channel continues. But the channel, they also refine. So when we eat food, that's the first channel, we refine that channel, and that channel continues in the form of consciousness. That's why the root system within is our digestive system, and then complementary to that is our central nervous system. That is the root going up. So we have the root coming down and the root coming up, and we call this the brain system. So the system, the spirit flows through us, also channeling the power. So, of course, it takes the experience, also in correlation with experiment, to be able to fully channel. So we need to experience this ability. We have to discover our ability to refine spirit on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So that's why we have all kind of so-called difficulties, same as this root, constantly, not only at the same time, constantly make that effort, we call this difficulty. Down, bang! Now we made it, right? All the way down here. And for us, it's the small intestine. That's the inner womb, the inner mother. So the womb was total, the big circle, all of the universe. And now that womb, right, through this refining process towards the center, also we can contain that. So the small intestine, right, is the essence of the womb. But the woman, right, have the extra blood. Can talk more about it at a different time. Right? So she can from this center, she go back to the circle. Let's say, now we have arrived to the center, but the woman now has the power to return back to the big circle. So she has a womb, see? A small circle, a womb, in preparation for the human to enter back to the original womb. So here you have the womb, but the womb doesn't have a brain yet. Right? And so we come to the center, so the whole womb becomes centered, and then we have to go back to the womb, but with consciousness. So when we eat, see, we go to the constriction of the womb, and from here we are born, right, and go back to the original womb as a central nervous system, as a cycle. So to come down to the center, it's by cycle. You have a cycle coming down, going up, up. So that's a cycle. To come down, this element, we call this element, to descend to the earth, that is water, the water element. But water is not just only water. Right? Prior to the water, you had the wind, the gaseous states, and the clouds. And before that, we had the thunder, the sound. And before that, we had the lightning. Before lightning, we had this vibration. Before that, we had the polarity, plus and minus. And before that, we had the power, the will of God. All of this emerges from the portal. So the portal, power, the polarization, vibration, light, sound, the gas, the liquid, and then the solid. That's why the water go down to the earth. See? To change into the solid, to make a connection with the nucleus, more solid. So water contains all these 8 stages. It's not just only water. So water contains the sound, the light, power. So that is water. And so that water enables the seed to grow down to the earth. The water has the power. Water has the power to penetrate, but by contraction. That's water. And so, but once the connection is made with the earth that we have within us, that is small intestine, is the inner mother, the inner earth, the inner womb. And that's when we eat, we continue the water element, and we chew, and we get saliva. Right? That means we have to bring the water down all the way to the inner earth. That's why we have saliva. Right? So chewing is very important. Many people don't chew while they're eating, drinking water. But that's not the water that we need to come internally down, all the way to the inner mother. So don't drink while you're eating. It's not so good. You maybe have a sip, a little bit of some tea, but definitely not Coca-Cola. Or something ice cold. It should be warm down. See? But also the saliva is more than water. It has, see, chewing, when we chew, and the saliva, it is a transmutation of our blood. That's saliva. And it contains so-called enzyme to help with the digestive process. So when we chew, see, the saliva comes to the blood. So we mix the blood with the food here in the mouth. And it goes down, and the food becomes the blood, and the blood becomes saliva, see? So that's how we control, right, our inner water cycle, right? Now, I gave you another picture. The ocean, see? That correlate with our blood. It has practically the same mineral composition, the same salinity, pH, and so on. But to enter land and evolve into a higher form of being, we had to carry the ocean within us. They had to condense the ocean within us. That's blood. So if we want to maintain on land, we had to maintain, right, the quality of our blood. Much more can be said about that. Our way of eating and drinking. It's very important. Otherwise, if we don't, then we go back to the ocean. We regress. And that's in the form of cancer. So the body cells disintegrate and become primitive, we call this primitive cells, like bacteria, virus. We go back and we easily get infection. Infection means we are going back to the ocean. That's what it means. So if we want to continue and continue ascending from the ocean via land up into the sky, they have to know how to eat. Most people don't. So I mentioned cancer. One way is it's a regression back to the ocean, to the water. And the water has to progress through us. So another symptom of regression is diabetes. So what happened is you cannot control water. And so we're retaining water, and the water becomes acid, easy to get infection. And it's usually down. So the first symptom is you get infection in your feet, in your legs. And if it got worse because of our ignorance, then they amputate the legs. Right? That's diabetes. Because of water retention. We cannot change the water. We cannot change the water, refine the water from within into the opposite of water. And that is fire. Fire is for the dissension, see? Dissension, and water, and water is for the dissension, and fire is for the ascension. So we need the sun, the heat, and this is cool. So I know many people are fascinated with water, and on the water ceremony, the water dance, and so on, but have no understanding usually what is water. And we say, oh, you have to drink a lot of water to purify the body. That is completely wrong. And that's why to be born for the ascension, to emerge from the mother's womb, the mother had to break the water. And so now you enter the next cycle upwards. And that is by the element of fire. So to prepare the baby for the ascension, but the baby in the beginning is horizontal, right? Like this, and cannot get up. And so to prepare, say, this baby to become really human, the baby has to become like this, right? And that happens by the fire element. So in preparation for that ascension, the baby's food should contain the fire element. But in the womb, the food of the baby is the salty blood of the mother. And salt retains water. It's by the blood of the mother, it's salty blood to internalize the water. And the baby is like a fish. Fish swims in the blood. So the ocean's in the blood, and the fish has no blood because it's swimming in the blood. But to enter land, you have to internalize the ocean, and that's why the more life ascends to the land, it gets more blood. Because that means we are internalizing the ocean. Now we can say goodbye to the ocean and so. And the animal becomes more warm-blooded, or the fish is cold-blooded. Or become hot-blooded, and the human is the most hot. So, and so that's why after birth, a portion of mother's blood becomes sweet, right? Why sweet? Because sweet means carbohydrates. That is fire. So now the baby need to be initiated into internalizing of the fire element. So the mother's blood is so important, mother's milk, to initiate the child for the ascension. And that process shouldn't be interrupted. And what many mothers do, because they listen to the doctor, they replace it with cow's milk, cow's blood. And they put sugar in the milk, you know, and sometimes they give the baby Coca-Cola. I've seen that. It's terrible. So what kind of human do we cultivate, right, to fully become human with the ascension? Fully. We go beyond this horizontal views of the brain to do this. To fully have the power to break through. So this is freedom. Because of the power, we can energy and liberate ourselves. Most of humanity cannot do that. They get locked in into the rock. They cannot really liberate themselves. They cannot say, I am. See, I'm free. Then you are true human. Now we are like a baby. Oh, I need protection. I need money. I need a doctor. I need the pharmacy. I need a supermarket. See? A baby, not human. This is human, truly human, having the power. And that power, they also can refine in the form of free will. Free will means the will of God becoming conscious through us. That is free will. But today, most have no free will and not able to think independently. There's a difference, big difference between thinking and belief. Belief say, oh, I've heard, I learned it in school and everyone talk about it, must be true. We believe, or go to the church and even holy scriptures, but no thinking. It's a belief. I believe in God. I believe in my religion. I believe in the priest. Belief, no thinking. You're not human yet. And even holy man, believe, have a personal experience, like the Dalai Lama. Mostly believe. We believe in the doctor. That's why I lost his gallbladder in the hospital, because listen to the doctor. Believe. Thinking becomes the control of your blood product, of the food, and knowing, so using your brain this way, not this way, independent thinking. And so I go back to the baby. The mother is preparing the baby for the ascension with the mother's milk. And don't interfere with that, because the first 3 years of the baby, that is how the brain is cultivated. So if you interfere in that process with sugar, Coca-Cola, and all kinds of sweets, and all kinds of foods, right, that possibly can be eaten maybe in small amount afterwards. But the first 3 years, so important. And also at the time of conception and gestation in the womb, the mother needs to know what to eat, how to eat. This today is missing. So afterwards, the child may be very so-called smart, but on the horizontal level. Even Einstein, a very smart person, but he was not able to think like this. And that's why the way he uses brain thinking was on this level. And so he managed to create a sign of fission, to destroy the nucleus and create chain reaction, but not fusion. Einstein. Why? Because he didn't know about his body. And consequently, you get the bleeding stomach that affected his heart. So he died of a heart attack. And they listened to the doctor. And the doctor, same thing, he will die in the hospital because he doesn't know. And that is the situation today. Today, the blind are leading the blind. That's it. So I'll tell you one scenario, and it's true. When the doctor has a heart problem, he goes to the heart specialist. The heart specialist, when there's a skin problem, so there's a skin specialist. The skin specialist has mental problem, go to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist has spiritual problem, go to the priest. And the priest go to the doctor for a medical checkup. That's a way. That's why today there's not one solution for one single problem. No. So what do we need? We need a fundamental education to know how to get out of the trap. And that is not available. I will talk more about it. And now the baby is prepared for the ascension with mother's milk. Then gets teeth. First the pill or K9, and they correlate with the early stage of evolution where they're tearing fiber, like a tiger. But since we are not carnivore anymore, so the K9 it becomes short, even with all the other teeth. And then we develop the incisors. That is a stage where we started eating the grasses. Then they become vegetarian, like a rabbit. Teeth like this. But before it was like this. This disappears and becomes this. And after that, they get the molars. Why? These molars only the humans have. To grind the grains. To grind the grain. The grain grinders. First, we get 16 molars. Until a certain time, we develop more the use of the brain, and then we get 4 more molars. They're called the wisdom teeth. So 20 altogether. But most people today, they have a problem with developing this 4 molars. Why? Because they don't chew the whole cell grain. That's why. That's the proof. So altogether, we have 32 teeth that correlate with the 32 vertebrae. So we are chewing our way up. That is, come to the brain system here, the ascension. So what happened? then we don't eat the wholesale grain of the main food. Especially beginning, in the very beginning, in the childhood. So what happened with this brain? We cannot ascend. We cannot ascend the conditional use of the brain, which is the right and the left brain. And so we get locked into fission, into reaction. This is right, it's wrong, it's good, it's bad. And compete within ourselves and also outside of ourselves. And we don't have the fire from down here that you only can ascend with by. See, that is the whole grain. So the whole grain has this complex carbohydrate that has a slow burning process, but it has to come from down here. When you eat fruits, also has carbohydrate, but it's fast burning from the stomach. It cannot come down. But when you eat refined sugar, like white sugar, and even to a certain degree, any kind of sweetness, that fire comes from here, straight into the blood. It creates energy, right? But not from down here. So the ascension process is sabotage from down. Because you need to use the entire central nervous system from down up to your pineal gland. Then you can do this. So with most of humanity, maybe 90%, cannot ascend their aim. And good people, right? They're nice. They talk about love and peace and pray and meditate, do yoga, you know, go to the gym, and they may look good, right? But still, they cannot ascend. See? They cannot do that. And that's why I made a symbol. See, it's like this. That's humanity today. But not only humanity today, but it's part of the process, see, to go beyond that defining line between the ocean and land. See, that's the beach, right? We call it the beach. So we have to transcend, right, from the water to the fire element. So I will show more about that. So we have to ascend on the bottom up, from the center up. So this is the teaching. And so I want to say, yeah, so the water element is the descent, and through this biological process, internally, we change water into fire. And it begins with chewing. So when we chew, they also give a more higher temperature to the fruit. So it's not a good idea while you're eating, drinking ice cold water. But many people do this, ice cold Coca-Cola or beer. But sometimes for pleasure, but it's not wise. See? So you cannot ascend. It's descend, water. And so many people believe, I have to drink a lot of water, it's good for the purification, and don't understand what's happening. And they do it because everyone talk about it and believe, have no notion what happened in the body. I have to talk more about that on a special occasion, but and so you go back to the ocean, to the cold ocean, cannot ascend. Too much water retention. Another thing that retains water is the dairy products, especially cheese. And worse, it's malted cheese. It's a water retention, because that is the cheese come from milk and the milk from the mother. So that means you cultivate your baby condition, cannot accept. And that's why dairy products, especially in the form of cheese, retains water. And I show you here, one slice of pizza, one slice, not the whole pizza. It has a molten cheese, very sticky molten cheese. So, and I cannot even separate, it's all sticky. But it also retains water and the cheese. And that's why since dairy products become so popular because of the advice, oh, you need calcium, you need to drink milk and so on. In Asia, where I come from, before the Second World War, when you drink milk and you give milk to the people, they're saying, milk? They think you're a barbarian. See that you're drinking milk from the mother. You're not a baby anymore. And now you drink milk from the cow. So, but through intensive indoctrination, commercials, and the government saying, you have to drink milk, you have to drink milk, it's good for you, good for you. So now everyone drinks milk and cheese. And what happened? They all become like this. Now, obesity now is becoming more and more normal. See, in Asia, but in Mexico, right, it's the fourth most obese country in the world. Even children, they're all obese. I mean, the world, see, cannot ascend into fire. That's obesity. And you may be strong, but then that affects the mind too. So when you're obese, then this also become obese. I can look at a picture and you can tell what a person is obese. I don't need to see the body because the head reveals the whole thing. Okay? So anyway, let me become more clear about what I'm talking about. This is another illustration. This is the body, and it's divided because the diaphragm. And the heart connects with this diaphragm. And the heart is centered within the ocean. That's ocean, the water, by the blood that's created from food. And upper part here, what surrounds the heart, are the lungs. It's left. And the heart correlates with the sun. So by the sun, the ocean can evaporate and become the clouds, the lungs. And the lungs, right, the clouds from rain. So that is the blood, when the blood circulates. And the blood become the rivers going back to the ocean. So that's the blood circulation. But now that water, the rain, before it goes to the ocean, it gets captured by the plants. The plants can grow. And so the plants grow, and that correlates with the brain. So the brain is actually the refinement of the body. So the lower part of the body that correlates that below the jaw. That's why that is saliva, mixing with blood and goes to the inner ocean. And the upper part relates to the upper part, the lungs. And so we can connect with the air and beyond. See? And we go beyond the atmosphere, we call it thinking. All the way up to the ionosphere. And when we can fully connect with the central part of the brain, it correlates with the center of the body, which is the heart, then we can go beyond the ionosphere, right? And our thinking becomes more universal. Universal. And we start to understand, we start to know that we have the power of God that we can use in the form of free will. But here with the body, we can explore also the earth that is maintained by the 4 directions, east, west, south, north. That's why we have 4 extents. The lower part is the feet, and then upper part of the arms. We have everything. Everything within is without. Including the cycles, we have 12 organs. They correlate with the 12 constellations. Now that education is so basic, fundamental, that is not available in the event officially, academically. But this education is not available. And it's priceless, priceless. There's not one university that teaches. And when you go to the university, you only study on one subject. But this education that's available now, people don't realize it, is the total education, total. To know ourselves as a total being, to know the extent of this total being, the totality around us, and the correlation that we have between the totality within and the totality without. It's available. And I've been offering this to people, and it doesn't dawn on them. See, they say, "Oh, this is another, concept or study or philosophy." But it's not. Now, what I just shared with you, and it's not mine. See, I'm just a messenger. But for me, since I've been prepared for this for the past 53 years, I'm 90 now. So now it's for me much easier, and it's not just me, everyone, because of the way of eating. I call this the sacred art of eating. It's not just a diet. See, I don't believe in diets, but knowing how to synchronize the inner with the outer. And all of this, what I've been sharing with you, nobody actually taught me about. The more we synchronize the inner with the outer, the more we can use common sense. And most people don't know what is common sense. They say common sense, oh, it's very common. You do this, you have to do that. Common sense. That's belief. Common sense means sensing what we have in common. So you have to know how to use your senses. Know how to use your brain. Not only this way, but This way. So we can have total common sense in all directions. Basically, by the double polarity, the left and the right brain, right? And the total use of the brain. And that correlates with the complete union between the center of the body and the center of the brain. And how do you connect it? It's by the blood. And that's why, to begin with, by controlling our food, they also control our blood and also controlling the use of our brain. So this is the symbol. So they have a hold on the pendant. But today, humanity is like this. No control. So by this teaching, the one are teaching that's not available, you can do this. Why not? So we can liberate ourselves. We don't have to beg for liberation. We liberate ourselves. Liberate ourselves. Bang. Liberate. Or for anyone who would say, well, it makes sense. What are you waiting for? Right? There's a website, www.oneheartportal.com, where you can, for the rest of your life, know what I'm talking about and more. And more. Because it's not like, oh, I know enough. I have a diploma. Now I can get the job. No. This is the endless education. Even when you're dead, that means you leave your temporary body, the spirit continues, you still learn. Even the gods, the highest gods in the heaven, including Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, they're still students. They're still learning. So what we offer here is the infinite education. And that is not available on this planet Earth. Are you interested? Ah, well, let's see. And if you really say, yes, makes sense, you do it right now, not tomorrow. Now. www.oneheartportal.com/student. Then you will know the meaning, the real meaning of this symbol that I just now present from the bottom up. And that bottom ascends from the body to this. It's important that we're able to use this brain like this, but don't get locked into this. You have to know the center. Free. So this is also the symbol of total freedom. Now, I can keep on talking.
No, thank you, TAWA.
Anyway, thank you for this invitation to present, and send me a copy of this. You can share, please share with many people, and tell them, remind them constantly, please become a one-heart student so they can share with other people too, especially the mothers. The mothers need to teach children, the family, the friends, and make their home truly the center of the government of, by, and for the people.
Aho. Thank you, TAWA.
be free. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you,
you
thank
for
you.
the invitation.
Thank you for this time and the message that you share. And I also wanted to, before we conclude, to make this a little bit more tangible, all of everything that you speak of in order to ascend, in order to go from being horizontal to vertical and evolve and be liberated, you speak a lot about a macrobiotic way of eating. And so for someone who has never heard that word and maybe listening to you for the first time, how would you describe what that even means? And what would be some first steps to start integrating a macrobiotic way of eating? If you could just share a little bit about that. I know you've spoken a little bit about it already, but.
Well, I've been so-called practicing macrobiotic for 53 years. I managed to create the largest, most complete macrobiotic center in Hollywood that I released myself from because I have a bigger mission. So I'm very well informed about macrobiotics. Macrobiotics also has two parts. Most people, they become so-called macrobiotics because they have cancer, all kinds of problems, and they want to reduce weight. But that is a very incomplete macrobiotic. Tell it for yourself. Macro means total. I'm talking about this. And total, so we can really comprehend the totality. So the totality, in the totality, it's like here, see, I said this is the observer, that's who we are, and this is macro. But we have to know how to make the connection. And basically, it's with food. So that connection is inwards, food. And so you have to know how to select the food, how to prepare the food, how to eat the food, how to digest the food, how to refine the food into consciousness. That's macro. And then we go up, like I mentioned, that is the second part of macrobiotics. And most don't care about it or don't know about it. So here, we have to refine the food into consciousness. That is the last step. And so that's what I've been doing here. Nobody told me about this, but I share with you. But it's very intuitive, very natural. It's common sense. Common sense. So you can go back to where the food comes from, and that is the second part of macrobiotics. But by all means, there are many books about the first part, how to internalize, say, all of creation in the form of food, and as consequently, you can have a basis for common sense. Now you can return to where the food comes from and realize what you have internalized. That's the second one. And that is practically not shared. I've been trying to share this also with so-called macro people, but unless they are really interested in the sharing in the bigger way. The first part is food, which is very fundamental. People share recipes, many things, but now we have to share. First part is receiving, second part is sharing. And so I went through the first process, to internalize, to prepare my body. And for me, it took about, for me, it was very short. So I started in 1970, purifying my blood. And in the 1980, about the time, And now I want to share. That's why I created the largest, most complete microbiology center in the world. I became very famous. TV reports, radio, and so on. Anyway, I was a counselor, I was a teacher, you name it. But in a very short time, because it was in a period of 10 years. But after that, I said, I want to share more. So I gave up that center and started to discover how I can do more. I gave everything up. And that led me to right now at this point in Mexico, because I discovered the greater purpose, and also according to the plan, with the purpose of Mexico. That's why I'm here at this time. So sharing. So that's why we have a digestive system for the seed and a central nervous system to share. So by all means, go to the internet and the many books about macrobiotics, about food, about healing. There's one good book about healing, macrobiotic home remedies. Mitsukushi, very good. Macrobiotic home remedies. Mitsukushi at that time, he was the foremost macrobiotic teacher. I managed his seminars for 9 years in California. So books, the book of macrobiotics by Mitsukushi is one good one. But there are many others by his students. Oh, they're all good. So, but please, macrobiotics I recommend definitely. I do so constantly. But the second part of macrobiotics is now being shared in the form of the One Heart teachings. So www.oneheartportal.com, and you have a /student, and you can become a One Heart Force student, right? Not just a student, but a force, a power for humanity, for yourself. And so that for $50, it is not much, it's less than 1 penny a day, right? That you can live for another 10 years. So for the first 10 years, you pay 1 penny a day, and after that, it's free. It's not practical to deposit every day 1 penny, right? Or even less, not practical. So $50 at one time, and you get all the books about the so-called second part, say, of macrobiotics. Total, many concept perceptions to think in the universal terms. The 8 books and more is coming up. Videos, a lot of videos. And courses, like cooking courses. And you can repeat, you can see food preparation, what cooking is all about, complete. So, and you can repeat. It's all accessible. And soon we'll also have a planetary, global TV, a weekly TV program every Sunday, 11 o'clock. And we will begin on July 23rd, 11 a.m. every Sunday. I give a talk, also others will speak or we have dialogues. So that is another asset, but that is free. But by supporting, by being a part, say, of the total macrobiotics, you become part of the One Heart force. Not just a student, One Heart force. So www.oneheartportal.com/student. Do it now. Thank you.
Aho. Thank you, Tawa. Thank you so much for all that you share. And on behalf of the Colectivo Agua, we'd like to thank you for the message that we are also integrating. And now that you're speaking of sharing and that second part of the macrobiotic way of eating, we are gathering in July for a retreat where we will be integrating not just the first part of the macrobiotic way of eating, but the second part, sharing and and integrating the alchemy between water and fire in the kitchen so that we can refine consciousness and evolve. So we are also extending that invitation to Oaxaca, Mañaltepec, from the dates of July 15th to the 19th, where we can put all of this into practice and much more. So thank you so much, Tawa, for this time. And thank you to all our family and friends who are listening and who we are growing together with. Thank you. Blessings,
Okay,
Tawa.
I'll smoke the pipe on this.
Sí, thank you. Aho, Tawa. See you soon.